Good evening, folks. This is the Factivist report for Sunday, the 5th of March. And I am doing the show tonight. Dave is under the weather. So we're going to talk about what's really going on here in the United States right now, because I'm not sure that anyone at any time gets the complete picture. We all look at news stories. I do every day. But nobody really understands that just because we did pretty good during the midterms, we are still at fascism's doorstep. In fact, we may be in more danger now than we were then. And there's a reason, and we're going to go into it tonight. So I am going to be screen sharing, and I am going to be doing a little reading. And we are going to start with Ron DeSantis. And the reason I'm starting with Ron DeSantis is because right now he is the demagogue in chief in this country. I'm not making light of Donald Trump. He's still a danger. But the message to you folks tonight is this. If they were to send Donald Trump to jail miraculously tomorrow morning, we would still be having a march towards fascism. This isn't just about Donald Trump, and it's not just about Ron DeSantis, but Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump appear to be heading for a face-off in the election. And not one of them is any better than the other. In fact, Ron DeSantis might be a little bit more virulent only because he's younger. And he has some people behind him that are kind of scary. So let's start with DeSantis. We're going to have a bigger discussion from there. So this is an article from Vanity Fair about, why a Ron DeSantis presidency might be, even a little bit worse than Donald Trump at the end of the day. Okay? This guy is a true authoritarian. There's just no question about it. He has, in very short order, because he's a bully and he uses the bully pulpit very well, he has turned Florida into the prototype for fascism. There is absolutely no question about it. So let's look at a few things here. He hasn't even decided whether he's going to run, but yet he's on a national tour right now. He's coming around to blue states, actually. I don't know if he's coming to Boston. But let me just tell you, before I get into Trump, let me just tell you what he would be coming into if he were to come here. So in Boston right now, the state is pretty much run and owned by the Democrats. We have, 160 people in our House of Representatives. In Massachusetts, 133 of those 160 are Democrats. There are 26 Republicans and 1 independent. We have 40 senators in our state Senate. 37 of those are Democrats, 3 are Republicans. Now, the Republican Party of Massachusetts is blaming the head of the Republican Party here, but the fact of the matter is, I believe we are where we are because we had a huge backlash here against Donald Trump during the midterms. We elected the state's first female governor, and she's also the state's first LGBT governor. So what happened here, I believe, was a response to 4 years of Donald Trump and the ensuing years with Biden and a Republican legislation on a national scale, because they have been nothing short of obstructionist. So these are the things that make Ron DeSantis scary. He has absolutely no respect for human beings. First of all, we go back to the whole, moving those migrants around the way he did. He just treated them like they were some kind of property of his. Putting them on planes, flying them to Massachusetts, Martha's Vineyard, unexpectedly, and expecting the people of Martha's Vineyard to reject them out of hand, because Martha's Vineyard is, quite frankly, for rich white people. But that is not what happened here. In fact, the people of Martha's Vineyard took them in and cared for them. But Ron DeSantis had no problem using COVID money to move those people around like they were some kind of property that he could just use as a political pawn. He has no regard whatsoever for the human race beyond the people who share his ideology. He's totally anti-science. He mismanaged COVID in his own state, causing, thousands of deaths that were unnecessary. He hired a guy named, appointed, actually, he didn't hire anybody. He appointed Joseph Lapdo to serve as its attorney general. This is a guy who literally mischaracterized COVID-19 using flawed research, conspiracy theories. The guy should not even be anywhere near the public health in this country. He has encouraged people to not get vaccinated. Rebecca Jones, who ran against Matt Gaetz, was actually a whistleblower. She was given whistleblower status for the way DeSantis handled COVID. So he has, done the whole anti-mask thing, demonized masks, demonized vaccines, ignored stuff that the CDC said. The Palm Beach Post actually noted that the, quote, the coronavirus has killed more people aged 65 and over in Florida than any other state in the nation. And that public health experts outside the state attribute the trend to the DeSantis administration's counterproductive COVID-19 policies. He wants to make it harder for people to vote. He even went to the point of having people in Florida arrested because they were voting when they shouldn't have been voting, but he created the confusion that led to that. This is what fascists do. So I can't emphasize this enough. He is a very dangerous person. And something that's not even mentioned in this article is his legislature, which is a GOP legislature, actually did some redistricting before the midterms. And they submitted those to him. They passed the bill and submitted it to him, and he vetoed it. And then he strong-armed his own GOP legislature into allowing him to redistrict the entire state. He redistricted the state on his own, used his bully pulpit. The legislature rubber-stamped it, and they put it into play. Now, there's a watchdog group that challenged him in court. It went all the way up to the Florida Supreme Court, which, by the way, he managed to stack with his supporters. And the state Supreme Court of Florida declined to do anything with it. So it is running as a redistricted state strictly by the governor, with no legislative involvement other than to rubber stamp his bill. He's got a million tricks up his sleeve. He is running the state like a dictator and an authoritarian, and he's getting away with it. He does not believe in free speech, and he can say he is, but the fact of the matter is, when you pass something like the Stop Woke Act, which he signed into law in April, it restricts conversations about race in schools and businesses, by the way. It allows students and workers to sue if they believe a classroom lesson or workplace training course caused them to feel guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress. So let's get this straight here, folks. The kids in Germany can be taught the Holocaust, and they can handle that. But the little snowflakes here in America, little snowflakey white children, we can't talk about slavery because it might upset them. Am I hearing that right? Are you hearing that right? You are hearing that right. So much for the idea that Americans are tough and individuals, right? We need the protection of the government to keep us from our own actual history. He has banned critical race theory at every level. He's not just attacking grade schools. He has now put himself squarely in the arena of destroying higher education in Florida as well. He is waging war on transgender people. His administration has eliminated Medicaid coverage for transgender care for poor people of any age, and he has barred transgender girls from competing in sports. He has now got this "don't say gay" thing going, and it's scary. The Parental Rights in Education Act, which is dubbed "Don't Say Gay," was signed into law in March of 2022. It prohibits teachers from discussing any gender identity and sexual orientation in kindergarten through third grade. By the way, it's not really very much discussion of that from kindergarten to third grade. It's kind of like LGBTQ plus fear mongering. You know, let's say a kid in the third grade goes to school and says, I had a great weekend this weekend with my dads. So we can't talk about that in that classroom because that's not allowed. We have to pretend that was never said by that child. Thus, basically disavowing any legitimacy of that kid's family. That's the way these things work in Florida. And make no mistake about this. If he becomes president, if you don't think he will try to enact this stuff nationwide, you're extremely naive. He will absolutely do whatever it takes. He is a massive bully. There is no question about it. He pushes around his own legislature. He is gone after Disney because Disney dared to defy him on the "Don't Say Gay" law. We'll be getting into that in a minute. He's anti-abortion. He has instituted a 15-week anti-abortion ban with absolutely no exceptions for rape and incest. And he's talking about making it even tougher than that for women. He has absolutely no need for the Respect for Marriage Act. Luckily, he's not in Congress, wasn't involved in any of that, but I can promise you if he was there, it wouldn't have happened. If he were president, that wouldn't have happened. He also makes it harder for protesters to speak out about injustice and easier for people to run protesters over with their cars, by the way. He has removed the liabilities for that in the state of Florida. He's not interested in gun violence. In fact, he is, I think he has already signed a permitless carry for Florida. No training required, no regulation for safe storage of a weapon in the home, nothing. It's just wide open, wild, wild west carry down south. So we have a few articles here about Mr. DeSantis that we will put in. That's one of them. There's another one here. Ron DeSantis is a case study in the threat of fascism in the United States. He absolutely is. His whole state of Florida is the proving ground for fascism across this country. So it's just amazing what's gone on here. Let's see. I'm going to close that one. We have a Newsweek article also. This is a expert on fascism who has written about Hitler and Donald Trump. But this particular expert here says that Quote, Ron DeSantis will destroy our democracy with deadly precision. I cannot emphasize enough how dangerous he is. He is indeed a scary character. There is no question about it. He cannot be trusted with the reins of government. Not on a national scale. I mean, he's in Florida. He was just reelected with a 60% of the vote went to Ron DeSantis. Now, I don't know if that's from redistricting. I can't imagine anybody knowing what this guy is about, putting him in power, but somehow they managed to reelect him with a pretty large plurality. So he is there now for however long his term is. There's no removing him because he is now just fully a dictator there. We have an article here from Counterpunch saying the same thing, demagogue rising. You know, these articles are coming out from people who are experts and that are warning you that this guy is a problem. And I'm not sure how many people take this very seriously. I see an awful lot of joking on social media. None of this is funny, folks. None of it. He is banning books in school. He is literally he has instructed the teachers in Florida to remove books from the classroom until he has approved them. Okay, he has banned the Diary of Anne Frank. He banned several other books with Black characters, historical books, people who have, excelled in sports, people who have, affected history, because that's not what he wants kids to read. Hitler once said, whoever owns the youth owns the future. And he's modeling his educational system right along the lines of his ideology. He is the sole determiner of who gets to read what in the state of Florida right now. Teachers either have to cover up their books or remove them entirely from their rooms. And speaking of his educational policies, here's an article here from March 3rd. DeSantis's educational policies come right out of the fascist playbook. Right? So he is signed into law Bill 233, and that requires Florida's public colleges and universities to conduct annual surveys of students and faculty members' beliefs in order to, quote, determine the institution's levels of intellectual freedom and viewpoint diversity. So don't be tricked by the word diversity. What he wants to understand is how many woke thinkers there are in colleges, because he does not want colleges and universities to support any woke policies. Now, let's define what woke really is. What woke really means is that you have compassion. You understand that our history hasn't always been good, particularly for people who aren't white. You understand the plight of women. You understand the plight of LGBTQ people. You are accepting of those people. You understand that you have communities where you care for one another, that you sometimes make sacrifices for the common good, like wearing masks when there is a killer pandemic, getting vaccines when there is a killer pandemic. To go into a school setting and to use children as a political pawn by taking mask mandates to court so that kids don't have to wear masks in school. Look, no one likes wearing masks, but you know what? There is no denying that masks work. We have heard all kinds of bullshit from the right wing about how they don't work anyway. It's just a way for you to take away rights, blah, 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 blah. You know what? Masks do work. There is science behind it. Look it up. I'm not going to spoon feed it to you. I've already done that in a million other videos. These are the things that make this guy scary. The fact of the matter is that he doesn't care about your children, and he doesn't care about what they're learning unless it is meeting his right-wing ideology. All right. He's looking to see if there is woke ideology among college and university students, because then we can label that unpatriotic. That's what's going on here in America today. Now he is attacking advanced placement courses in colleges. Now, advanced placements courses are used to help your child get a good education, all right? Some high school students right now in this country are enrolled in AP classes. That will help them get into a better university, all right? This is a very rigorous educational process, okay? It helps to boost GPA. And a lot of students use this to get into the colleges they want to get into. And he is talking about banning them there. Now, I'm going to read this a little bit because there's a junior in Palm Harbor, Florida named Prisha Shirdiwala who is in these classes. She's taken 3 of these AP classes to boost her GPA and make her more attractive to college admissions officers, a strategy drummed into her by her school counselor. But Shirdiwala has also grown to love the strenuous environment of her AP English literature, chemistry, and calculus courses, despite the hours of homework each week. In the APs, I am surrounded by other people who enjoy the rigor, she said, and I tend to have teachers that are really well-versed in what they're teaching. What will happen, she wants to know, if all of that goes away in her senior year? You know, he's victimizing students. He's not helping students. He has warned that he may withdraw state support for AP programs, which is basically intensifying his ongoing conflict with the College Board. You know, this is the College Board he has strong-armed into removing lessons on Black Lives Matter and the reparations movement from its educational courses, because he said they don't have any educational value. They don't have any educational value if you're a white supremacist, but they do have educational value. All right, make no mistake about it. So he's in a battle royal with them, and quite frankly, the College Board is caving. So his alternative, if he drops the AP courses, is schools can expand alternatives such as the International Baccalaureate and Cambridge assessment programs. But that would require them to earn more credits by passing an exam. So basically, instead of them learning anything, they have to take a test to get college credits, a standardized test, which a lot of kids simply do not do well at. You know, it's amazing. This guy has every trick in the book under his belt. He is being advised by very savvy people. We're going to get into some of those people in a bit. So here's the first time you're going to hear about the Moms for Liberty tonight. Now, one of the members who has been supportive of the insurrection in the Capitol is also a Moms for Liberty member, and she has been appointed to the Florida Board of Education by DeSantis. So he is also constructing his entire education board around right-wing ideology. Just so we understand each other, that's exactly what's going on here. She has also made social media posts supportive of the Capitol insurrection and has been photographed on a boat flying the QAnon flag. And she is on the Florida Board of Education. Her name is Esther Bird. She's a former Marine who lives in Neptune Beach. She has to be approved by the Senate, the state Senate, in 2023. But given the fact that Ron DeSantis runs the bully pulpit, I'm pretty sure that his legislature doesn't go against him, and the Senate's not going to do anything but confirm her. She is the wife of Republican State Rep Cord Bird, and works as a legal assistant in his office. He is a firearms expert who handles many Second Amendment cases. So we're just getting the lay of the land here, folks. okay? Understand what this guy is doing. So that brings us to Disney. We're going to get back to the moms in a little while. I have them towards the end because there's a couple of groups we need to talk about, but you'll see them a few more times probably before we get to them. So the whole row about Disney. Now, Disney got a tax break because they controlled their own domain. So they were exempt from a lot of the things that the regulations in Florida. But in all fairness to Disney, their tax break was because they take care of their own fire, water. They don't rely on state services. They were like their own little community. And they are a moneymaker for the state of Florida. Make no mistake about that. Florida relies on its tourist industry. And Disney is a big draw for the state of Florida. But Disney bucked Ron DeSantis on the Don't Say Gay law because Disney actually has Gay Week and Gay Family Days and does not discriminate. So Ron DeSantis decided that he was going to revoke their special status and take control of Disney World. And that is what he has done. The legislature just passed the bill giving him control over Disney. So, you know, the headline, there's a new sheriff in town. And that's exactly what we've got here, a new sheriff in town. So they are no longer self-governing. And he is basically punishing them for opposing his Don't Say Gay law. None of this is being done because it benefits the state of Florida. It doesn't, you know, help with taxes. It doesn't help with any of that. But both houses of the Florida legislature backed this plan. And what's going to happen is the Disney arrangement actually saved the people of Florida millions of dollars in taxes. Those taxes are now going to be put onto the people of Florida. I'm not sure they really understand that. I'm not sure just how critical a group of thinkers we have in Florida right now. I'm really not, because they have remained mute in the face of all of this fascist bullshit for the most part. There is very little pushback. And it's a sad thing to see. For me, it's very distressing that people can be that, I don't want to say the word stupid, asleep. I don't really understand what they're thinking. But so he has ended their self-governing status, placed the area in state receivership, and appointed 5 board members to control them. Okay? They live under the same laws as everyone else, blah, 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 blah. You know what? They never broke any laws. All right? What they did was save the taxpayer money by not relying on fire services, water services. They took care of their own streets and roads. When they had to be repaired, they did it themselves. That will all now come from the state, and that means someone has to pay the bill. It won't just be Disney. It will be the people of Florida. So, Moms for Liberty co-founder is one of DeSantis's appointees for Disney's district governing board, which means I believe this will lead to no more gay Disney days or gay family weeks or whatever. I believe that you will now see just exactly what's going to happen in Florida will be total authoritarian rule over what they can and cannot do creatively. So, do you need to say something, Sarah? You want to say something? Speak.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted to say that I can actually confirm I've vetted this group, Moms for Liberty. I've gone to their social media pages, and it is a whole bunch of anti-trans propaganda, memes, and the people that follow them are fascists. So I just wanted to include that.
I think you're absolutely right. There's no
This woman is dangerous. The entire group is dangerous, and they, appeal to these right-wing Christians, and they're diluting the message at first, and then they lure them in, and then they brainwash them.
They do.
And I don't want to say that they're not, I don't want to pretend like they're victims, but they're victims at first because they're being manipulated into supporting oppression of other people. And this is dangerous. This is not funny. I get that people want to be, laugh at these jokes and stuff, but this is life, human life.
Yeah.
That they're trying to say that trans people are not legitimate, that they're not human. And that is just scientifically incorrect.
Right. So
everybody has rights here, not just guns.
Right. Listen, anytime you want to break in while I'm in the Moms for Liberty things, please feel free to do so. Okay. I would appreciate your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I've been researching them and trying to document it, and I'll keep going and let you know what I find.
All right. But
I post a lot of this stuff in our Facebook pages in the groups. So, I've already shared this a lot, but if they're not in the groups, they should join.
Yeah. You do need to join, kids. Okay. So he's not the only, the Moms for Liberty aren't the only people they've been putting on, but they're a scary bunch. So he appointed 5, and all of them are political donors and loyalists to Ron DeSantis. Of course, he had a little ceremony for them too, because that's what fascists do. And by the way, Disney has said it's not going to plan a legal challenge to what he is doing. So he also stripped the company of its ability to operate its own airport or nuclear power plant. And those were authorities it has never used. So they've never built their own nuclear power plant or operated their own airport. But this is a political battle. This has nothing to do with making the state better. So aside from the Moms for Liberty there, Bridget Ziegler, who is a conservative education activist who was a major backer of the Don't Say Gay bill. She's also a DeSantis-endorsed Sarasota County School Board member. She is a co-founder of Moms for Liberty, but she is involved in a bunch of other stuff as well. Her husband, Christian, was recently elected chair of the Republican Party of Florida. All of these people are political hacks, folks. They are not on this board because they are knowledgeable about running a district or even knowledgeable about running any part of a state. They're there because they pay fealty to Ron DeSantis. He also picked attorney Martin Garcia. That's the board's new chairman. He runs an investment firm called Pine Hill Capital Partners, and he gave a DeSantis political committee $50,000. Brian Angst Jr., a prominent Pinellas County attorney, he also appointed him to the 6th District Judicial Nominating Commission. Mike Sasso, Winter Park attorney who DeSantis has appointed to a handful of boards over the years. And Ron Perry, an Orlando area businessman who runs The Gathering, a ministry focused on discipline, discipleship, and outreach to men. You can read into that whatever you want. I'm already reading into it myself. State Rep Anna Excamani, an Orlando Democrat who's been a leading critic of the changes, blasted the new board. She said, "It's absolutely wild to see a self-proclaimed capitalist like DeSantis celebrate the government takeover of a private board, which is exactly what the governor did today." So these people are all extremists and they are all political donors. This is the message you should be getting. What you should be getting from this is what fascists do. Just like Donald Trump appointed his daughter and son-in-law to the highest positions in the U.S. federal government. That's his protection. This is his enabler. These are his enablers. This is what fascists do. Nepotism.
And you know why you install your family members? Because they won't testify against you.
Absolutely.
That's why. Not because they're good people or because they have the right skills. He put in people that he knows he has brainwashed. I mean, you think of his kids, John Jr., with Eric and Ivanka, and what's the other one?
Oh, Barron?
Yeah, okay, all of them. That he has trained them, he has groomed them to be him.
Right.
Now, in his mind, I'm sure he feels that they're very lacking because just as his father raised him, where he was very insignificant, always trying to be the best, be the winner, triumph, make money. Their family views money as currency, like love.
Right.
Okay. And if you've read all these, what was his name? Bob Woodward stuff, and what's the other woman? Hagerman?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember.
You have to know who Trump is. Y'all have to research this stuff.
Yeah.
Because even the mainstream media is not going to tell you the full picture. There's people out there who are sharing this information and sharing their research with people. There's no excuse for us to not know who Trump is, right, and know who Moms for Liberty is. Look them up.
Right.
I've been researching this in detail, and I'm going to give this information to Deb. We're going to update the website.
Yeah, they're going to be all over the website.
And it's going to be up there. So you'll have no reason not to know who these groups are, because they are mobilizing. They are more motivated than they have ever been. The Democrats, even with, Jamie Raskin and AOC and all the good liberals that have been so vocal against right-wing crap right now, they're doing their job. We have to do our job and research these people.
That's right.
And know when they're going to go show up with guns, right, to drag shows, and be able to track these groups and report them to the FBI. Or that's why at CPAC, they're talking about they're going to get rid of the FBI. They're going to get rid of all these organizations that are holding these right-wing groups accountable, even on a very microscopic level. Yep. They're doing something.
Yep.
They're our last hope.
And people can laugh at that. We're going to eliminate the FBI. We're going to eliminate this. We're going to eliminate that. They've already proposed a bill that would put a 35% sales tax on backs of the American people and eliminate the IRS. Why do you think they want to eliminate the IRS? They want to eliminate the IRS so that the corporate entities and the billionaires can run rampant in this country, and put the tax on the backs of the American people. People need to understand this. If they are in power, folks, let me explain this to you. We have right now the House we lost in the midterms. We should never, ever have lost the House. And I'm going to discuss that at the end of this session. We should never have lost the House. That's unbelievable that we did. Okay. And we expanded the Senate by one senator. One. Okay. Did we do a good job? Yeah, we stopped the red wave. But if people think that just because we did that in the midterms that we are home free, let me explain something to you. All they have to do is hold the House and take the Senate, and all of this becomes reality. All of this has the potential to become reality, because guess what?
If they get any more power, even one more person in power, we're screwed.
We are.
They're going to, that's an entire, even just one bad governor, that's an entire community that's going to be, being attacked by Ron DeSantis and all these other MAGAs trying to make their way in a community where the more horrible you are, the more money you make.
Right. If they flip the Senate in 2024, if they flip the Senate in 2024 and they own the House and the Senate, I don't think you will ever see another legitimate election in this country. I'm sorry.
We won't. And they know it too, because even Trump's saying that. But he's trying to blame liberals for it. But they're the reason why we won't see another one. So he's out there telling them the truth.
Everybody that's under investigation for election fraud in this country is a Republican, not Democrat. Every person being elected or investigated in this country right now for election fraud and electioneering is a Republican. Every one of them. So
Carrie Lake is still out here going, I'm the governor. I'm the governor.
Yep. By the way, we have I just had to put this in because this might seem funny, but it isn't, because people really think like this. this guy that is the the former pastor, Ron Perry, that I mentioned just previously, he bought into that bullshit that because of estrogen in the water from birth control pills, it's turning people gay. This is part of an attack on gay and trans people in this country. It is huge. And I'd like to remind my gay brethren, I'm a lesbian. I'd like to remind my gay brethren this. Some of you out there are all worried that you tied yourself to the trans community and that was your downfall. If you don't think the Republicans were going to come after you, you're wrong. They would come after you too. They would come after you. They're not just after trans people. You're not seeing this just because you've associated yourself with trans people. There are some transphobic gay people out there, and they need to get over themselves, and they need to do it fast. Because you know what? It's like that old saying, who's going to come and defend you when it's your turn? Because your turn is coming. If you think they're going to let gay marriage stand, you're wrong. And that's not where they're going to stop either. So let's talk about what DeSantis' Florida is doing for trans care. He has stacked the medical boards. He has essentially banned trans care for anyone under 18. So, you know, here's a 12-year-old girl who is completely, not only within her rights, but completely self-aware. So this is an older article, but she said that, quote, that moment for me is happening right now as I stand in front of a panel of strangers and publicly beg for my right to exist. She is non-binary, okay? Nothing is more humiliating and dehumanizing than pleading for one's own existence. This is a 12-year-old girl talking like this. A 12-year-old girl who has the stamina and the acumen of a much older person, trying to make them understand what she goes through. Now, I have my own trans child in this house, and I have learned a great deal because I have been forced to learn a great deal. And I understand exactly what's going on in this country. And I also understand that what they're trying to do here is either legislate them out of existence or make it seem like they have problems that can be cured through other means. And that is not what's going on here. So he stacked these boards, both medical boards, and God only knows why, honestly, anybody on the osteopath board has anything to say about this is beyond me, but they do. So they have, both medical boards voted to approve a new set of regulations which would ban the treatment of gender dysphoria with puberty blockers and hormones for anyone under 18. So the rule changes were based on spurious claims, cherry-picked data, and widely discredited pseudoscience. There are links to all of these things in here. When you read these articles, you really do need to click on them and look at them. They run counter to the recommendations of every major medical association, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychological Association, and the Endocrine Society. They are the first example of a healthcare ban enacted directly through a state agency. And another case of Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is aggressively weaponizing administrative appointments to bend the state's institutions and policies to his far-right agenda. So members of both the Board of Medicine and the Board of Osteopathic Medicine are directly appointed by the governor for 4-year terms. This guy gets to, in Florida, you appoint everybody. Nobody's elected. So you might as well just turn the reins of the entire fucking state over to this guy, which is exactly what has happened here. It has been said that, Nicole Parker, director of transgender equality for the nonprofit advocacy group Equality Florida, noted that the governor is, quote, strong-arming state agencies and boards. She says the boards of medicine and osteopathy are stacked with DeSantis political appointees choosing to put their politics over people's lives. These doctors do not care about trans people. there's, the battle against trans people and gay people is not just happening in Florida, it's happening everywhere. But I use Florida because, honestly, Florida is as fascist as you can get right now. And this guy in a national position would be a disaster. Because if you think for a nanosecond that there is any Republican who would stand up to any of this, I need you to look at what's going on right now. Just look at what's going on right now in America. Let's just take 2 minutes before I go on. We have a GOP House that is completely MAGA, okay? Anybody in the Republican Party in the House is completely MAGA. We have some more rational people in the Senate, but they are unwilling to stand up against any of this because what they are most concerned with is keeping their jobs. Now, every once in a while, Mitt Romney says something disparaging about George Santos, blah, 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 blah. But Mitt Romney doesn't discuss what's going on with women, and he doesn't discuss what's going on with trans people and gay people, because, in fact, Mitt Romney was my governor at one point. And Mitt Romney is not pro-choice, does not believe in a woman's right to choose, and he is not pro-gay, and he is not pro-trans. Okay, understand that. Even the more rational Republicans right now do not meet any of those criteria. So we have a new law here. I don't know that it is passed yet. I don't believe it has. This is from March 4th. Florida courts could take emergency custody of kids with trans parents or siblings, even if they live in another state. So this is what this means. Say, this is Florida Senate Bill 254. So the state could take control of your child if they receive gender-affirming care. So say you can't get gender-affirming care in Florida, and you decide to move with your child to another state with the agreement of your other half so that your child could get this care. If the state gets wind of that, the state can take your child into custody, stop that care, and you lose custody of your child. Do we understand that? Do you consider that something that the state should be doing? Since when does the government get involved in people's personal lives? That is the larger question here. People have a right to live their lives without government interference. I keep hearing from the right wing in the GOP that they want limited government. They want limited government when it comes to corporations influencing everything, money coming into their pockets. They want limited government when it comes to the wealthy paying taxes, but they don't want limited government when they're telling you how to live your life. That's what they want to do. They want to tell you how you can live, what you can believe, what you can read, and what you can eat, essentially. And now we have another bill in Florida. So now in Florida, if you're a blogger, you will be required to register with the state if you're going to write about the governor or the legislature. That is a direct violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution. But again, even though the right wing claims to love the Constitution, they don't give a damn about the Constitution. Okay? The bill would require also not only registering with the government before you write, within 5 days of writing the piece, but you would have to disclose if you're being paid by somebody as well. How does that work? We can't even get these people to tell us who donates to their campaign, okay? Because they have laws shielding them. But if we are to write a blog post or a magazine article or a news article, we have to disclose to them who's paying us. That's kind of what we call fascism here, folks. Any number of these things is an affront to the Constitution. So let's talk about, there she is right there. She's on tour as the potential FLOTUS. Casey DeSantis, Stepford wife. He's got her completely under control too, because she's brain dead. I kid you not. So the Claremont Institute is heading to Florida. They're going to set up shop in Tallahassee. They are calling Ron DeSantis' Florida. This should make people Cringe. The template for any red state in America. So in other words, you can see where this is going. They're going to set up shop here in Florida. And then what will be the next state to fall? Texas, I predict. Texas is pretty close right now. In fact, Ron DeSantis has said that Texas and Florida is the battleground against the left. So what this is like the overriding view of ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, which basically takes right-wing bills and cookie cuts them for every other state. This is exactly what's going on here. They are now going to infiltrate every other state that's run by a Republican governor, and attempt to mold that state the way Florida has been molded. And folks, this is how fascism works. It's textbook. Let's talk about the Claremont Institute so everyone understands what they're all about. And so they do a lot of stuff, okay? They legislate, they educate, blah, 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 you know. And let's talk about some of their ideology here, right? Let's look at all these nice lily white people. Yep, every one of them. Take a good look. I'm waiting to get to the part that I want to read to you. Let me see what that was. That it? Let's just see. It's a coming. The Center for an American Way of Life. Okay. A new initiative devoted to reinvigorating and restoring conservatism, headquartered in Washington, D.C. Okay. It gets better. Okay. Hold on. Recovering the American idea. You ready? The mission of the Claremont Institute is to restore the principles of the American founding to their rightful preeminent authority in our national life. What they are talking about there in code is white supremacy. The American founding to their rightful preeminent control, okay? Don't make any mistake about that. You can read between the lines. Take a look at them. Every one of them, a fat, bloated white man. The battle for the American mind. Here's one for you. Defend America, defeat multiculturalism. That makes the hair in the back of my neck stand up. That, to me, is the scariest headline in this entire website. Defend America, defeat multiculturalism. And that 1776 motto back there, they want to bring you back to 1776, but in fact, the founding fathers never intended for the Constitution to remain in 1776. They intended for it to be a document that could be adapted and developed over the years because they knew the world was going to change. They may have had their faults, but they understood what the future was going to hold. And they understood that time was not going to stand still. Yet, that's what the right wants you to believe. This is a scary group. They are going to be a very big part of the website. I am getting more information on them now, even as we speak. So here's Moms for Liberty. And Sarah, chime in anytime. Their website, it looks great, doesn't it? It's just so benign looking. But there's nothing benign about these people, okay? Nothing. They have literally got parental rights model policies. They have outlined them for all of these states, okay? Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Idaho. And, if you go to any one of these resolutions, which they have in PDF form, it's all about parental rights, about what you can and cannot say to your children, what can be done and what is not allowed to be done. And these can be adapted to fit the model of whatever the state requirements are. They're incredible. I mean, it's amazing. I urge everybody to look at this stuff. This all sounds all well and good, but you know what? I brought up two kids. I got one that's 26 right now and one that's 22. I don't remember any of this being an issue for me. I don't remember ever a time when I couldn't walk into my teachers and sit down and talk to them about what my kids were doing and what they were learning. and what their problems were. There was nothing hidden from me. There was nothing being taught that I didn't know was being taught. This is all a construct of the right wing. They are demonizing teachers and demonizing public education. And that's what this is all about. It didn't just start with Betsy DeVos. This has been going on. The march to where we are right now started way back. It started back with Reagan. Okay? This has been coming. These people are, if nothing else, determined, and they will take whatever time it takes. And here we are today on fascism's doorstep. And it took them all this time to get here. Now they're here, and people think this isn't really happening. Well, you know what? They considered the German people educated and astute and aware. And the German people fell for this shit too. So what Moms for Liberty really is a group, a political group of right-wing extremist policies. Their biggest concern was winning the midterms because they knew if they get enough of these extremists in office, they could get where they were going. They want conservative politics in classrooms. They want nothing about anything that isn't white. They don't want any Black history. They don't want anything about slavery taught. And, you know, they're not mentioning a thing about Native Americans because no one teaches Native American history anyway in this country already. But let's make one thing perfectly clear. We've heard guys like Rick Santorum say that there was no culture here before the Europeans got here. Well, that's utter bullshit. Because the Native Americans have been here for a lot longer than the Europeans have been. And there was plenty of culture here. We have already wiped their culture off the planet. We've already taken their children away and made them Americanized. We already went through all of that, but we don't teach any of that either. I urge everybody to look at this by the Gay and Lesbian Advocates and Defenders, GLAAD. They go through a whole perspective of what Moms for America is all about. You know, I'll read one to you. School board member details how Moms for Liberty targeted county guidelines to protect students' rights to dress and use bathrooms according to the gender they identify with, falsely calling school board members pedophiles. This is what they do, okay? They term and label people to build fear among the masses, all right? And the people fall into this pit. Media Matters for America has exposed Moms for Liberty, and they've done a good job in this piece. Moms for Liberty, a nonprofit claiming to advocate for, quote, parental rights, appears to be using parents as pawns to advance a far-right agenda. That's exactly what they're doing. Okay? The group has a lot of media attention. It's becoming a right-wing sweetheart. And it is...
And can I just say that, you know, this is not like some master conspiracy to take over the world or whatever. These are just Republicans. These are MAGAs who have joined this cult, and they have figured out a place for them in the MAGA movement where they can elevate themselves, their family, their wealth, and they don't care who they hurt. And they'll do whatever. And this is about money. This is about putting money in their bank account. The woman that's leading the Moms for Liberty, they have multiple locations, I want to say, in every single state. If not, that's their goal.
Yep.
And they're building their cult, and they're building their, you know, legitimacy in the MAGA movement, in the Republican Party, and building their political power, pressuring these legislators to do what they want them to do. And they're doing it right out in the open. I mean, there was this website, I forget what it's called. I don't want to promote it, but it's like some conservative right-wing project thing. And it was this random link that I found. I don't even know where I found it, but it was basically saying, hey, we are this community project, this right-wing group, and we're uniting all these people together around pushing the Republican Party farther and farther right. And they're like listing all these elitist political figures that support them. And they're just out in the open blogging about it. Like, hey, you know, with the whole McCarthy vote. And they're like basically admitting on this blog that they're the ones pushing these people farther right. They're like, we've succeeded, folks. We've pushed these MAGA people to do what we want them to do. They're not hiding it. So this information that I'm talking about is going to go on our website. And I'm hoping people will say, okay, this is one person I want to look up and go and find out more, because they're very motivated to make money off of oppressing people. I mean, this is evil. And they're using kids and they're using their children to go and hold up signs saying God, not government, and things like that make these right-wing people, you know, make their heart flutter because they think of their sons as being patriots. And, you know, it's just gross.
It is.
It's gross.
So, you know, they're not only against critical race theory, but they're against just about anything that that isn't, you know, to be perfectly honest with you, that isn't 1776 oriented. So, according to Media Matters, the Washington Post published a report on them, and I have that next. I'm not going to read that to you. I'm just going to show it to you. But they are basically, what the Post says, that they are basically well-connected partisans, and they're opportunistically manufacturing outrage and selling it to the parents under the guise of empowerment. That's exactly what this is. It's not a grassroots organization. It's not member funded. The vice chairman of the Florida Republican Party was interviewed about his enthusiasm for the group. And, you know, it was pretty disappointing for me. The Post noted that his wife is, quote, loosely aligned with Moms for Liberty. The reality is the Post was wrong about that. The group's initial incorporation documents lists this woman as the co-director. That's not a loose affiliation, okay? The fact is that as of the writing of this particular article by Media Matters for America, the group was incorporated on January 1st and has since grown to 135 chapters in 35 states with 56,000 members and supporters. So this is a fast-growing organization. Here's the Post article. This is a year old. So, you know, I advise you to look at it. It does have its flaws. But the Media Matters is much more on target. So, but I'll put them both in there for you. And now we're going to talk at the end of this about CPAC, which, oddly enough, in the midst of all of the conservative outrage, before I get into it, they spent literally 4 days demonizing gay and transgender people. So it's over now. It ended actually yesterday. It was March 1st to the 4th. You know, it had the usual suspects, you know. Donald Trump was the keynote speaker. He closed it out last night with a speech. They also had Jair Bolsonaro, the deposed leader of Brazil, the deposed despot of Brazil, who has been hanging out in Florida. Oh, go figure, because, you know, he was driven out of power this year. So he's been hanging out in Florida with Ron DeSantis. He allegedly was sick and he was being treated in Florida, but he was certainly well enough to go to CPAC and make a speech where he blamed the liberals for just about everything that happened to him, which is the great hue and cry of fascists. By the way, while Donald Trump was president of the United States, he endorsed Bolsonaro for re-election. Who does that? What leader of the free world actually publicly endorses a dictator for re-election? Oh, wait, Donald Trump does, because he's also a Putin supporter. We're not going to discuss that tonight, but we will be getting to that some night. about how the Republicans are the Putin party. So at CPAC, we had, any number of vile speakers. We had, I'm not going to go into detail tonight, but I will be making a separate video on this. But Donald Trump Jr., who referred to Senator Fetterman as a vegetable because he's being treated for depression now. You know what? Senator Fetterman's not a vegetable. He's actually a hero for being open about it. And you know what? When somebody like that talks trash like that about someone with depression, I think it should resonate with the American people, just exactly what these people think of the American people in general, because an awful lot of American people suffer with depression. So it isn't just about Fetterman. It's really just their attitude towards anybody who they don't think is fit. Think about that. America is not for everybody anymore. It's not. Not under these people, it's not. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the big mouth, who actually might as well be Speaker of the House, because she's got Kevin McCarthy by his whatever he's got. He doesn't have much. The left is coming for our children. She went on her usual hateful anti-LGBTQ religious rant because she is a Christian nationalist, self-declared. So according to her, the left is coming for our children. She preached that, quote, our God is bigger. And that God, she promised, would help her pass anti-transgender legislation, quote, that will make it a felony to perform anything to do with gender-affirming care on children. I don't know what these people think, but frankly, this is none of their business. What you choose to do with your children, how you choose to support them in whatever they need is not the business of the US fucking government. And it never has been until now. Government does not belong in your household. All right. She also claimed that Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky wants our sons and daughters to go die in the Ukraine. That is exactly the opposite of what he actually said. She attacked the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus for, quote, literally singing "We're Coming for Your Children," referring to a 2021 tongue-in-cheek song the group received right-wing death threats over because of advocating for teaching children to love and not to hate. It's amazing. It really is. These people get a national spotlight to spread this bile on a daily basis. Here's another doublespeak idiot. This guy really pissed me off. Michael Knowles, who is another talking head for the Daily Wire. He calls for transgenderism to be eradicated. For the good of society, transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. In other words, let's pretend they don't exist. This is genocide speak, no matter what anyone tells you. I got into an argument on Twitter this afternoon with right-wingers who said, oh, you're not reading it right. Oh, I'm reading it absolutely right. What's the difference between transgenderism and transgender people? There isn't any. They're mincing words. They're making it look like I'm an idiot when I know exactly what they are doing. All right? I am not a dumbed down right-wing supporter. I am someone who understands exactly what he is saying. We have the article also from The Advocate, who says the exact same thing. For the good of society, what if I were to say conservatism must be eradicated? What am I saying? I'll tell you exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is conservatism needs to be removed from government, and conservative people shouldn't be elected. That's what I would be saying if I was saying that. Am I not correct? It's one and the same thing. So we're mincing words here. We're playing games by using transgenderism, taking the personal out of it, making it not a person. That's exactly what they do. So that is a very transphobic remark. And Harvard clinical law instructor Alejandra Caraballo posted a video of Knowles' comment on Twitter. She wrote that he was, quote, openly calling for genocide against trans people at CPAC. What exactly do you think eradication entails? If you ever wondered how we get from hate speech to genocide, this is it. This isn't some fringe figure. This is a Daily Wire host speaking at CPAC. She's absolutely right. And that's where we are. You know, that's all I've got. I'm going to stop sharing now and just talk for a few more minutes. So I'm going to close this out because I've kept you guys long enough and it's gone on long enough. I could go on forever here, but we are in a very precarious situation. And I have said this before and I'll say it again. Nobody can sit out the 2024 election that's a Democratic voter. Nobody. Nobody should have ever sat out the midterms because we're not in a good shape. We're not in good shape here. We lost the House and we gained one more seat in the Senate. If you ever expect to get your rights back, ladies, this isn't going to happen this way. It wouldn't happen the way it is right now. So if you're thinking that you're going to sit stuff out again, I would suggest that you don't do that because it could be the last time you ever do get to vote legitimately in this country. I can't overstate this. I can't overstate where we are. This is a very scary time in American history. This is the scariest time I've ever seen. This makes Watergate look like a fucking joke. Okay? It does. And I watched Watergate very carefully. I was a political junkie at a very young age. We need to get it together and we need to do it soon. Gay people and trans people, you're allies. Okay? You need to be allies because you're both being demonized. And people who think they're LGBT and they're safe, they better wake up. That's not what's going on here. Pete Buttigieg, right now, all of this nonsense about the train derailment, go now and start looking at the articles about him. They are attacking him because he's gay. Take a good look at what's being said and understand what's going on here. This has turned into his nightmare. And it's something he's not responsible for. They don't like him because he's articulate and he's smart and he stands up and he's got an answer for every right-wing pile of bullshit they throw at him. So they're going to go after him whatever way they can. And the way they can is because he's gay. We are in a scary time in America. If you're white and comfortable, well, God bless you. But you know what? I promise you there are no solutions in fascism. And that's it for tonight. We will see you all next week. Sarah, anything in closing or are we good?
I'm good.
We're good. We'll see you next week. Dave will be back.